the principal of General Brock Elementary School, and I would like to welcome you all to tonight's session, which provides information about the Vancouver School Board's intensive French program. Our target audience this evening is parents who are considering enrolling their children in the intensive French program for the upcoming school year, September 2023. This session is being recorded, as I've already mentioned, and will be posted on the Vancouver School Board's website. We will be taking your questions at the conclusion of the presentation. And at that time, if you have a question, please just raise your hand digitally and do not unmute your mic until the presenters calls upon you. So one of the presenters, it could be any one of us. So General Brock is located, just a little bit about General Brock. We're located on Main Street near 33rd Avenue. We enroll about 200 students in our regular K-7 mainstream classes. Then we have 2 intensive French classes that can enroll up to 60 students. And we also are home to 3 other district programs. And that's great. And everybody can see my screen, the screen that I'm looking at. That's great. And I'm just going to forward here. So first we're going to start off, before we proceed any further, we'll do our Indigenous acknowledgement. So I would like to acknowledge that all of us in the Vancouver School Board live, work, and play on the unceded traditional territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh peoples. All right, and tonight we're going to be covering a lot of topics. One of them is our French, the French programs in the district. We're going to be doing an overview. Janice Myers, our Director of Instruction, will be doing that. And then we've got in the intensive French program, we'll be talking specifically about that one. And then some research, the application process, and then of course time for questions at the very end. So at this point, I'm going to be turning it over to Janice Myers, our Director of Instruction, who's going to be taking the next few slides. And then after that, our teachers, Madame Pancratz and Monsieur Orange, will be taking over. Thank you. And I'll hand it off to you, Janice. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Hope. So yeah, as Hope mentioned, I'm Janice Myers. I am a Director of Instruction and Educational Services with the school board, and I also have the privilege of working with all of the district choice programs. Prior to this, I was a teacher and an administrator in French immersion, early French immersion, and I also have had the privilege of working at in an intensive French school as an administrator. So on the next slide, just looking to give everybody just a bit of an overview around French programs that are offered at the Vancouver School Board. So we have just over 21,000 students who attend French immersion programs. You can see there's about 4,500 doing early French immersion, and those students are registered in 14 schools from K to 12. We have all students in grades 5 onwards complete core French, and so that is almost 17,000 students. And then in the late French immersion program, we have 144 students currently, and that is a grade 6-7 program as well. And we currently have 102 intensive French students in intensive French, if you will, in grades 6 and 7 in 2 schools. So Brock is the district program. If you can see on the next slide, we also have, it is quite small, I know, but it just has a map of Vancouver. It shows the early French immersion programs, the late French immersion programs, and the intensive French programs. And so you can see that they are dispersed across the city. The district program for intensive French is at Brock. There is also Franklin, but that's a school-based program. So many of you might also be interested in the late French immersion program. That information session is tomorrow evening. So this is the intensive French program information session. And on the next slide, it's just the additional French language options. So as I mentioned, core French is taught in all mainstream schools starting grade 5. Intensive French is here at Brock as a district program in grade 6 and 7, or late French immersion is offered at Secord, Trafalgar, and Douglas. And so with that, I'd like to turn it over to Monsieur Orange or Madame Pankratz to talk about the program.
Thank you, Janice. That was a really nice overview. Hi, everybody. My name's Katie Pankratz. I'm the grade 6 teacher for Intensive French, and it's my pleasure to go into some details of what the class is like, what the 2-year program is like, and what you can expect. So I'll just start with this slide. So the program's 2 years long. Kids come from all over the district to Brock, and we focus on communication in French. So it's a little bit different than French immersion, where we don't teach subjects like social studies and science in French. Instead, we focus on themes. These are relevant to the kids' lives. They get so into it. Right now I'm teaching food, and as you can imagine, it's very exciting to learn about what did you have for breakfast, or what are you going to eat on the weekend, and it's very exciting, and the projects are awesome. The last point there is that math is taught in English, and it's taught in English throughout the whole year. So we can go to the next slide. So in the first year, which is my program, grade 6, there is a 5-month intensive phase. And then, so that's from September until February. And then in the second part of the year, the kids are caught up in the grade 6 regular program, the regular subjects, English, math, science, all of those things that a regular grade 6 classroom would be covering in the curriculum. But we continue to do 1 hour of French a day, so that all that hard work from September to February isn't lost, that they still continue with that. As I mentioned before, we teach math throughout the whole year. That's something that's really important, so they're developing those critical math skills from September through June, and that they don't fall behind in that subject area. And the grade 7 year, which John will touch on in more detail, is a lot like the second half of the grade 6 year. So instead of doing that intensive only French and only math, John does more of the 1 hour per day. And here's a nice visual to help you, because you might be thinking, what does this mean? So just to go over it again, September, and I actually go over it with the kids pretty much every few weeks, because they're like, are we ever going to do socials? And I remind them that, yes, we do start those subjects in the end of February. So right now, since we're still in that first half of our intensive French semester, we work from September to January on 80% French. So 80% of the day is in French, with 20% in, which is English. And that's 1 hour per day. It might also be PE. It might be their music with our lovely music teacher. But that's pretty typical, 80% of French, really, really focused on helping the kids get those foundational language skills. And then from February to June, the last 5 months of the year, it's language arts, math, social science, career education, ADST, etc. And of course, we continue with the French 20% 1 hour per day. These are flexible as well. Sometimes the kids are really gung-ho about a project. They're making a board game, or they're doing a menu, and sometimes we take a little bit more time, or some days they have a concert or a field trip. So this is kind of what we aim for, but it's obviously flexible.
Thanks, Katie. Hi, everybody. My name's Jonathan Orange. I'm the grade 7 teacher at Brock Elementary. And so I continue on what the great work that Katie has been doing. And so just to kind of reiterate, this is kind of a continuation of what we saw from the grade 6 year, but now I'll talk about the grade 7 year. And so again, the grade 7 year is similar to the second half of the grade 6 year in that we continue with 1 hour French each day, and we complete the other curricular areas in English. So since French is added each day, there may be a slight reduction in English language arts, but it is incorporated within the other curricular areas. Next slide, please. Thank you. Okay, so what we're looking at here is the intensive French is taught following a curriculum that emphasizes the ability to communicate in French, using themes and projects centered around the everyday experiences of students. It is the increase in the intensity and the instructional time in intensive French, which allows students to acquire the skills in speaking, listening, reading, and writing, which go beyond the skills acquired in a regular core French program. So what you can see here is in core French, they have 112 hours, but after the grade 6-7 intensive French program, you can see that they have 600 hours of time with the language. So you can see the difference between the programs.
All right, so this is just to reiterate how we love to teach in themes, and here are some examples. There's me and my family, food, clothing, hobbies, the alphabet, classroom, objects, supplies, animals, Canada, robots, the environment, and camping. So that means that when I'm teaching the sentence structure or vocabulary, it all circles around the specific theme. So we might be working on a theme over 2 to 4 weeks. And at the end of every theme, there's a really big project and they present to their peers or record it, and they might make a skit about it. So it's project focused. And again, these are just some examples of some themes that we cover over the year.
In the next couple slides, I'm going to talk about some of the research. First, studies have indicated that students who are exposed to a period of intensive second language study show greater progress than students exposed to the same number of hours of instruction spread out over a longer time period. So the research has also shown that students of French may develop spontaneous oral communication skills equivalent to that of a grade 11 core French student, and written skills equivalent to grade 3 Francophone students. So by the end of grade 7, students are typically able to initiate a conversation and communicate in French with some degree of spontaneity. So the intensive French program focuses on the development of French literacy skills and the enhancement of English literacy skills. Research has shown that there are minimal effects on other subjects, and literacy is really at the core of the IF program.
Thank you, John and Katie. So over to the application procedure. So just this first slide is really if you're not a student in the VSB. So because this is a district choice program, students need to be registered with the VSB. So if you're not already, then you would have to register at your English catchment school. And there's a list of information at the bottom that you would have to bring in. The priority registration is between now and the end of January, so not a first come, first serve. Most of the folks who go into intensive French are already students in our district though. So on the next slide, you can see that the application procedure it's a one-page form that's available on the website or would be available on the Brock school website as well. So that's a one-page form. And then we also do ask that the students have, because it is changing schools and going into a new program often, that the students are excited about that opportunity as well. So to ensure that conversation is being had, so you would fill out the application. You can either email that or drop that off at Brock. If there is more applications than spaces, on the next slide, you will see if there are more applications, then spaces. There will be a draw that will be held. You will be contacted with either an offer for a space in the program or the wait list and your place on the wait list. And then with the nature of the grade 6 intensive French program, the wait lists are dissolved on that second Friday of September, because after that point, there's so much French that's being learned and being taught that the students wouldn't be able to enter the program after that, those first couple weeks in September.